Greetings. Welcome to This Week with Crafting with Jaclyn and Naomi.
Hello.
It's good to have you here. This week we're going to be making these little Thanksgiving wreaths. They also have to do with the stories that we'll be learning about at church on Sunday, which we'll explain with each step that we take through these. So before we got started on this, I went out and I collected a whole bunch of grass and reedy things, a whole bunch of little rocks from the side of the road. Yeah, pine cones and a whole bunch of leaves that weren't too crunchy because otherwise you're just going to crumble all over your wreath. And we also have some paper and a glue gun. So with that, I'm going to plug this in and we're going to get started. Okay, so we're going to want to each take a piece of paper. There we go. Thanks. And we're going to crumble it sort of in a wringing out kind of fashion. So if you sort of take the hot dog, and you fold it, and then you twist it. But don't be too hard with the twisting or else it will rip, which is why I brought extra paper. So let's do it with the twisting.
Kind of fold it so it's really long and then you just twist it up?
Yeah, like that. And so the reason I chose to twist it like this is because we're going to be looking at the story of Gideon on Sunday. And in that, just like that.
Yep.
And in the story of Gideon, as we wait for this glue gun to heat up, God asks him to go do something, and Gideon is afraid, so he tests God and asks for a sign that God will give them victory as the people of Israel. So the sign that he asks for is that God would first make a piece of fleece that he lays out on the ground, completely wet, while the ground around it is dry. And the second one, that the fleece would be dry when the ground is wet. And so in Gideon's fear, God meets him, and he makes this fleece wet. And so when Gideon wrings it out, he sees that he's collected a whole bowl of water. So in this, Gideon was afraid, and testing God,
Best thing to do.
It's not the best thing to do, but it's cool how God met him in his fear and came alongside him, even though it wasn't the best thing to do. And so, fear isn't a bad thing, but it's when we're paralyzed by fear that it becomes bad. Just like that. So God is trustworthy, and he shows this to us through the different things that we see in his word of his trustworthiness. And so the twisting of this reminds us that God meets us in our fear, but he doesn't keep us in our fear. And that we can trust God because he's shown himself trustworthy over all the years, even when we don't understand. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we have this fine assortment of vegetation. And we're just going to what I kind of did here, I just sort of chose,
Seed?
The seedy grass I put around back. I chose different leaves and just sort of twisted it around the wreath. So you can feel free to pull off the different pieces of grass and break it apart as you will. I sort of collected them all together and twisted up the bottom bit and then glued that.
So that it doesn't come unraveled?
Yeah. But you have to be careful with the glue so you don't burn yourself.
Yes. Do get an adult to help you with the hot glue gun.
Indeed. The reason that we're using these actually was quite fun because when I went out, we're also learning about the story of Ruth this week, and in it, she does a lot of gleaning, which is basically coming up after the farmers have taken their crop and collecting up the leftover crops from the ground. It was a way to take care of the poor in those days, which Ruth was. Do you want help?
No, it's okay.
Okay. And you can glue it to the wreath as well.
Breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down and set me free. Everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face. I will live that your will be done.
These sometimes come out looking funny. Mine is anyway.
I think they both look quite nice.
Oh, I loved yours. Yeah, so the cool thing about the story of Ruth is that she was a very faithful individual, but she was really faithful in her everyday life. She took care of her mother-in-law, Naomi, because Naomi... What? Look at that! Her mother-in-law...
Perfect timing.
Yeah, so her mother-in-law, Naomi. Because she didn't have any sons to take care of her. So Ruth went out into the fields to glean and collect food for them. And when she was in the fields, she happened upon... Do you know the name of the guy?
Nope.
Boaz! That was the field that she gleaned from. And Boaz was a really righteous man. And when he saw her and her faithfulness to Naomi, he actually told the farmers to leave extra wheat behind for her to collect. And so it's a cool visual of God's provision for us. And it's that reminder that when we are walking with God in daily faithfulness, he will provide our needs. And this often looks different from person to person. Sometimes he gives people a lot of tangible things. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he gives us very little, but we can always be sure that he will always provide, even if it's in ways that we don't expect. It's cool to ask him for provision and wait to see how he will provide the things that we need. All right, let's see. Ooh, are you putting on some of the little flecky ones?
Yes.
Nice. The seedy ones. What's also cool is that Ruth, even though she wasn't an Israelite, she's one of the women mentioned in Jesus' genealogy. So that really shows God's, his care for her, because he let her be in the line of the Messiah. And it's really neat. I like that. I like the story of Ruth a lot. And what's also cool, sorry, I love the story of Ruth. What's also cool is that she was a Moabite, which isn't an Israelite. So they worshipped other gods. And when her husband died, so like Naomi's son, Naomi told Ruth and her sister to go back to their parents and back to their gods. And Ruth's sister went back, but Ruth herself said that she wanted to follow the God of Israel, so the God that we worship, and remain with Naomi. So even that faithfulness is a really cool thing to observe. Okay. Wow, yours is beautiful. It almost looks like a little nest.
It does.
It's cute. Ooh, I like it.
Kind of looks like it has ears.
It does kind of, but that's excellent. I love eared things. All right, so next we are going to put on leaves and rocks and pine cones to your utmost desire. So what I did for the leaves, I sort of just folded them in half, and then, yeah, you can pull those off. And then I folded them like that. So in half, and then sort of, yeah, like that. Like sort of a
Kind of half, and then
like that.
kind of like into a triangle.
Yeah, which means that you'll have to glue like these parts together and these parts down.
Or you could just do it like this and leave it open.
Or you could leave it open. You can do absolutely anything you want with the leaves. Like you could even just put them on like that, or put the pine cone inside. I love that.
Ice cream cone.
It is like an ice cream, chocolate ice cream. Ooh, that's incredibly interesting. I love it though.
Not done.
I enjoy
There's a lot
it.
coming off on this side, not a lot coming off on this side. I should have put a second leaf over here, but oh well.
We got pine cones and rocks now. Sorry. Look at this too.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I tried to lift up one thing, and a pine cone comes flying at me.
I know.
I think that looks pretty cool, minus
Ooh, I like
all of
that.
that. See, if it looks like something's wrong, just put something on the opposite side that's similar, and then it looks good.
Exactly.
Because without it, it looks kind of lopsided, but with it, it looks perfectly fine.
I like it. That's what I did with these pine cones too. I think a couple of the rocks as well.
Yep, there's one rock in the middle, kind of on the side, 2 each, and 2 each.
Crawling
It looks
up.
kind of like this way, but if you put it like this comes off.
Yeah, let's go like this. Ooh. And so for these rocks, I was thinking through, and actually my mother suggested this one to me, that at the very end of Samson's life, well, Samson lives like a weird life because he's a judge of Israel, which means he was set over Israel as like chosen by God to protect them from the Philistines and the Philistines and to hopefully be righteous. But most of the judges weren't very good. And when you look at Samson's life, you see areas that he's obedient to God, and he definitely does things in God's spirit. But then there are also times when he definitely doesn't. And so at the very end of his life, he's really at this point of shame, because all of his hair is cut off, and that's because he was not very smart. And he's imprisoned by the Philistines, and everybody is laughing at him and are basically putting him on display at a sacrifice and a service for their own god, who is definitely, he's a false god. And so Samson is there, and he asks his little attendant to let him put his hands against the pillars because he's tired. And at this point, Samson's strength is gone. It's completely gone. And as he puts his hand against the pillars, he prays to God one final time in an act of faith to bring the temple down on the Philistines. And even though Samson has disobeyed God in many ways, and he broke even the vow that he made to him, ooh, that's very cool. I love that. God still brings the pillars down. And so it's cool because when you think of Samson, most people think like, oh, he got his strength through his hair, when in reality that is false.
He believed that, but it wasn't true.
Yeah, his at least that's how it seemed too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so his real strength came from God. So even though all hope did seem to be lost, Samson still cried out to God, and God met him and gave him that strength back. Not because his hair started growing back, which it did, but because God saw fit to give him the strength in that moment. And so even in that, we remember too, that anything we do, our strength completely depends on God. So when we put these rocks on, we also remember that it's not in anything we do, but it's all from God.
Yeah, which is kind of important to remember.
It's very important to remember. This is it.
That looks really nice.
Thank you. Where's
And then this one's mine.
I love yours.
And
I
then,
love like how foresty it looks.
and then this is the original. I like the reddish paper.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention. We're not doing crafting with Jaclyn next week. We're doing a tour of the new
Sunday school
room. Yeah,
which we're in right now.
which we forgot to mention.
We did forget to mention that, but you remembered. Thank you. I forget so many things.
Looks quite nice.
It does.
I think it looks pretty good as it is.
Yeah, do you like yours too?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, and I suppose we are done. So,
This is the one that we're doing it off of.
yes. And then these are our little ones. I love it.
It's quite nice.
Yeah, so these are our craft for the week. They also remind us of Thanksgiving, which is this weekend.
Yes.
So, yeah, we have a lot of blessings in life that God has given us. And we can be thankful that He's with us through our fear, that He responds to us in our fear, and He doesn't leave us there. We can be thankful that He provides a great many things, actually everything in our lives. not even disagree in many things. And we can be thankful that he gives us the strength to get through everything that comes our way in life. And so, yeah, lean upon God, trust in him, and it's cool to see the way that he works in everyday faithfulness as we follow him into whatever he places before us. Well, thanks for the fun today, Naomi.
You're welcome.
And,
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we'll see you all in a different format next week because there is no crafting with Jaclyn.
Yep.
But we'll see you next time we gather. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.